Hey Spookaroos, it's your old pal Eric D here, introducing another ReMix episode. This one is about the Dyatlov Pass. And it's funny because I mentioned on the show, but I hadn't really heard about this too much longer before than... What am I trying to say? Previous to recording this episode, I hadn't really heard too much about this. I had, obviously. We got the idea to do the episode. But yeah, it's very early in the morning as I record this on Friday the 13th. It is 5:46 a.m. and I'm trying to get this out before I go to work. So I'm waking up early to record these things for you. But this is literally the first sounds coming out of my mouth today. And I'm sitting here in my bed with my familiar Emma on my lap. Okay, so yes, this episode was episode number 13. So that's why I said I'm going to wait till Friday the 13th to re-release episode 13. So I hope you all had a lovely Halloween. I know we talked about it on the last episode, but it wasn't the actual Halloween celebration hadn't happened when I recorded that episode. Nothing too exciting for me. I just went over my sister's house, hung out with the nieces and nephews, socially distant. They're getting older now, so they had a couple friends over. Everybody was in masks, and everyone was running around the backyard. Even though there was snow on the ground, I thought my sister was crazy, but she said the kids would have been so disappointed if they canceled, so okay. I stayed inside, where it was nice and warm, and hung out with my brother-in-law and my oldest nephew, who you guys have heard from before, Tyler, and then I kicked rocks. But anyway, back to this episode. I cut out a lot here, but it was mostly just this, like bantery kind of things about stuff that has nothing to do with the times we're living in now. And also explaining why I made the Facebook page and all this stuff. It's why do you think I made it? Promotion, of course. So you can go to spookyas.com or spookyasshit.com. They both take you to the same place. That's the show's blog page. From there, you can listen to almost every episode, including the ones that might not be no longer available on your favorite streaming service. I told you it's early. And you can also find links to all of our social media. We are at spookyasshit on Instagram, and you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/spookyas, and you can also join our secret closed group, the Spookaroos, there. I see. It wasn't bad. A little mumbly, but it wasn't bad, right? All right, now, Dyatlov Pass. That is the one about the hikers that are they die by an unknown compelling force. Very sad story. Lots of pictures available. There's pictures that were left in their cameras that you can see, and it's worth a Google. I'll tell you what. And of course, I'll be posting some images on Instagram, not the ones of the dead bodies. I don't really agree with doing that. To each their own, but I'll post some of the more mysterious, like, oh, these people were having fun, what happened to them kind of pictures. So be sure to look out for that, and otherwise, here you go. Here's episode 13. Hope you had a happy Halloween, and I hope you enjoy your Friday the 13th in 2020. How much stranger can it get? We had an earthquake here, by the way, in Boston last weekend. 2020 is on a roll, man. Here you go. Welcome to Spooky Ass Shit. I am your host, Eric Dwinells, and tonight, my returning guest co-host, demonologist, Brian Toney.
Hey, everybody.
Now, Brian, you probably don't consider yourself a demonologist.
Self-taught demonologist.
Yeah. I only mention that because every other episode he's been on so far has been about the devil or demons in some way. And he's actually expressed to me before that he really kind of only wants to do those kind of episodes.
I wouldn't say only, but if you're doing one of those, I want in.
Okay.
I'll even just sit in on it if someone else is the guest, because that's my stuff.
So tonight, I asked him to come by, and I told him ahead of time, this is not demon-related. Well, I should say it's most likely not demon-related. Because, you can make a theory fit anything. So if you want it to be demon-related, it can be.
All right. I think I will.
But tonight we're going to talk about the Dyatlov Pass Incident. Are you familiar with this at all?
I am not at all.
Brian's coming in blind. I gave him the choice whether he wanted to know the subject ahead of time or not.
This sounds very specific, not as wide-reaching as some of
No,
other
this
topics.
is an
Okay.
actual thing that happened.
All right.
I guess you would call it an unsolved mystery. And it's very interesting. Like, I would have imagined that I would have heard about this a lot longer ago than I did. But I really only recently heard about this at all. And it's a very famous case in Russian history.
Oh.
Because it happens in Russia.
All right.
But I don't know, for some reason, you don't hear too much about it around these parts.
You certainly don't.
No.
It is not taught in school.
No.
Is it a recent thing?
Well, I guess it depends how you define recent, but it happened in 1958 or 59. I got it in my notes somewhere. 59.
Okay.
So, pretty recent. So we'll jump into that in a second. But really what it's about is hikers who are hiking a mountain. And they were missing first, and then they were discovered to be dead.
Oh.
So we're going to get into how and why, which is the mystery.
Yeah.
But with our experience as mountain men,
Of course.
I thought you might be a good co-host for this particular
yeah, I'm a mountain man from way back.
episode. Brian and I guess I have to say used to because, and this is 100% my fault because Brian still goes out and does it. But we started sort of a tradition where we'd go like hiking on a mountain once a year. And I think we did it for 3 years maybe.
Maybe. I can think of 2 of them, but I can't think of the third one. But it may have been just the same one again. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
I've done Monadnock, Mount Monadnock, which is up in central northern Mass. Is it? It's technically in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I've done that hike probably many times.
Yeah.
To put a specific number on it, many. But
And
I did it with my family growing up, and I've done it with a lot of my friends. So
Yeah.
we kind of bore together at this point.
Yeah. And we did Greylock.
Oh, that was the one I couldn't think of.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, that's it then. Greylock, not as cool.
No,
Didn't dig
especially
it.
like because there's a road on the other side that just runs right up top to the mountain.
Yeah.
To like the gift shop on top of the mountain.
Yeah,
But you
have
can walk the trails.
You have to avoid cars
Yeah.
on your hike.
And I was like, oh man, why don't we could have just walked?
Yeah.
Could have just driven.
Yeah.
But you know,
At least Mount Washington, they have the good sense to keep the paths separate, so you
Yeah.
don't have to think about the cars. You still think about the bumper stickers.
Yeah. So anyway, if you want to find us on Facebook, it's very easy. It's facebook.com/spookyas. That's it. I went with Spooky AS. Why did I go Spooky AS and not Spooky Ass shit? Again, because of iTunes.
You're tired of the flagging.
Yeah, so that way I can put it right in the description so people will be able to find it. If I can't put, that's why I have to own spookyasshit.com and spookyas.com. Because I can't put spooky ass shit in the show description or iTunes won't post it. So I had to go, so if you look on the description on iTunes, it will say spookyas.com. Takes you to the same place.
Who knew iTunes was so puritanical?
I know.
Some people probably knew.
Anyway.
All right, let's do this.
Let's get into
do this Russian thing.
Yeah. So, I don't speak Russian. So there's a lot of names.
I speak it fluently, so we're good.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
There's a lot of names of things and people that I'm probably going to mispronounce. I apologize ahead of time. It was not done with any malice.
You're all right.
Yeah. So our story today takes place in the northern Ural Mountains. It's a rural area inhabited by an indigenous people called the Mansi tribe.
Okay.
The specific mountain that our story is set on is called Oror 10, which means don't go there. In the
It's
Mansi
named
language. Hold on.
after a late. Did I just clip it?
It's my headphone came a little bit unplugged.
Yeah. Well, all right.
Flawless.
Seamless.
All right.
So back to that mountain that was
Don't go there.
named after a mid-'90s sitcom catchphrase.
Yeah. But that it was often mistranslated as Dead Mountain.
Well, that's worse though.
Right. And of course, after this incident happened where these hikers died, People made a big deal out of the fact that it was called Dead Mountain and what were the Mansai superstitions and all that stuff. And really, they just called it Don't Go There because there was nothing useful there. Like, crops wouldn't grow there. There was no good way to get around it. Like, there was no reason to go there.
Yeah.
So it was dangerous. It was a dangerous area. So they just said, don't go there. Don't go there.
Nothing good mountain.
Right. So in early February of 1959, a group of, some of them were college students. I wrote in my notes 10 college students, but they weren't all college students. Most of them were college students. Some of them had graduated college. They were all around college age.
Similar age group, yep.
With one exception. We'll get to him in a minute. But anyway, 10 people decided to hike to the summit of Mount Oraten. And these are the names that I will do my best with.
Woo! Can't wait.
Okay, the first is Igor Dyatlov, 23 years old. He was the leader of the group, and he was a student at the Ural Polytechnical Institute.
Great school.
UPI. And then we have Alex Kolovatov, 24 years old, also a UPI student. Then we have Sasha Zolotaryov, 38 years old.
All right. Bit of an outlier.
He was a hiking instructor, and I believe he was a former UPI student.
Oh.
He was also studying to become a master hiking guide.
Okay.
So he was very experienced. So that might be why they invited him along. Now, there's a bunch of Yuris on this list. So I'll try to keep them straight. First of all, we have Yuri. This last name. Yuri Krivanashchenko.
Let me try.
All right.
I'm curious.
This one down here.
Oh, man. That's great.
My handwriting doesn't help either, I'm sure.
Well,
But
you should post this on the page.
yeah, they'll all be
ask somebody. Krivanchenko is what I would say.
All right. Good for you.
My mom really liked figure skating when I was growing up. So there's a lot of those names that I've heard repeated by TV commentators.
Right. So he was 23 years old. He was also a UPI student. Then there was Lyuda Dubina, 20 years old. Another UPI student. Nikolay Thibault Brignoles, 23 years old. A UPI graduate. Rustam Slobodin, 23 years old. UPI grad as well. Now our second Yuri. Yuri Dorenchko, 21 years old. A UPI student.
Younger Yuri.
Yeah.
Younger UPI Yuri.
Zina Kolomengrova, 22 years old. Another UPI student. And our final Yuri, Yuri Yudin, 21 years old.
Okay.
Another student.
So these are all dudes, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
You are mistaken. There are two women. Zina, the 22-year-old, and Layuda, the 20-year-old UPI student.
Okay. That's right along the ratio of engineering schools.
Yeah.
8 dudes for every 2 women.
So, all of these young people were experienced hikers and skiers. And they had specifically chosen this mountain because it was supposed to be difficult. And they had chosen to go in January, February because that was the difficult time of year.
So they're basically just a group of contrarians.
Yeah.
Trying to climb a mountain that's hard to climb and is named basically Don't Come Here.
Right.
Don't do that. And they go in the worst time of year to do it. My sympathy is waning for whatever happened to them.
Yeah, if you were writing like a spoof comedy, that is like what you would put on the sign, like Mount Don't Go There. So they're going around to the, different little towns that you get to before you get to the mountain, and they left the last outpost on February 27th. Then they start on the proper trail up to the mountain. But just one day into the hike, Yuri Yudin becomes ill, and he decides to turn back.
No.
He will be the only member of the party left alive.
But he didn't really see anything.
No.
So he can't shed a whole lot of light.
No. He actually just passed away not too long ago in 2013.
Hmm.
Now, the rest, obviously we don't have witnesses for the rest of the information. Everything that we know from here on in, we know from the journals that they left behind and from photos that they took that were found in cameras that they also left behind.
So this is like a lower tech, real life Blair Witch situation.
Yeah, basically.
I like it.
Yeah. So, on January 31st, the group stashed supplies for the return trip in the woods before beginning their climb up the actual mountain. So before you get to the mountain, you get to the woods. And they said, we'll leave some of our supplies here so you don't have to carry them up the mountain.
Yeah.
Pick them up
Makes
on
sense.
the way down. So then on February 1st, they began their proper ascent up the mountain. They attempted to hike over a pass, planning to camp on the other side. But a bad snowstorm came in and decreased the visibility. Because of the snowstorm, they accidentally veered off track and ended up northwest of their original target. The group seems to have realized this mistake, and they decided to set up camp on the slope of the mountain instead of walking the mile back to the woods, where they might have more coverage.
Doesn't sound like a great idea.
So the question is, why would they decide to camp on the side of a mountain?
Yeah.
When they could have walked back and been in the woods and had some coverage. And they asked the surviving Yuri, the one who had turned back, why they might have done this. And he said probably the leader, Dyatlov, just either didn't want to lose the mileage that they had gained, the altitude that they had gained, or they just thought it might be fun to experiment with camping on the side of the mountain.
I really don't like these guys.
Well, we don't know if that's true, but
I know, but
that's what.
let's just spit in the face of God.
That's just one Yuri's opinion.
And we have 3, so statistically insignificant.
In any event, this pass now obviously is known as Dyatlov Pass.
Okay.
After the leader of this group.
That's cheerful.
Dyatlov had agreed to telegram the UPI Sports Club as soon as the group made it back to the outpost after their descent from the mountain. He said that they should expect to hear from him no later than February 12th. But no telegraph came. At first, people didn't make a big deal of it because they were just like, well, sometimes people get delayed. And who knows, maybe something happened up there and they got snowed in one day and they'll get back to us the next day or something. So they didn't make a big deal of it. By February 20th, families of the missing hikers pressured the head of UPI to send out a rescue party, which he did, made up of volunteer students and teachers from UPI. And eventually the army and a branch of the civilian police also joined in the search, using helicopters and planes and stuff too.
And now there is a mountain pass on the same mountain, aptly named Volunteer Searcher Pass.
No, as far as I know, nobody died or was injured in the search.
Oh, that's good.
But on February 26th, searchers found the hiker's tent.
The one on the side of the mountain?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So that's the ostensibly last camp.
Yeah. It was badly damaged, and it had been torn in half.
Bears.
Nobody was inside the tent. No person or corpse was found inside the tent. But all of the group members' shoes and personal belongings were in the tent.
That's weird.
Yeah. It appeared as though the tent had been cut open from the inside.
Right.
Footprints were left in the snow, leading away from the tent.
No clothing, though.
However, the footprints were left by people in stocking feet, or wearing only one shoe, or barefoot.
So they were in a hurry, seems like.
And they only found somewhere between, they couldn't identify all the footprint tracks, but they said between 7 to 9 different tracks.
Bears.
So the footprints, they were able to follow them for a while. They led from the tent and down towards the wooded area, where they probably should have camped in the first place.
Probably.
But the tracks end suddenly, presumably covered by snowdrifts. But they were heading towards the woods. At the edge of these woods, searchers found remnants of a small fire under a tree. And they also found 2 bodies. Those of Yuri
First Yuri.
Kurvanchenko, as well as Yuri Doroshenko.
So the Yuris are sticking together.
Both were wearing only their underwear.
Weird. So are we thinking like combination bear hypothermia situation?
Well, you tell me. I'm giving you what they found, and then I'm going to ask you for your analysis.
Isn't it a thing when you have hypothermia that you feel really hot towards the end, you take off all your clothes and go run in the snow?
Yes, we will talk about that.
Yes.
Broken branches found on the trees they were under suggests that at least one of them had climbed the tree to look for or at something. Now, between the camp and the forest, searchers found 3 more bodies. They were separately. They weren't found together. They were kind of spread out. Different lengths from the tent or the forest. And they were frozen in poses that suggested they were trying to crawl back toward the tent. These were the corpses of Dyatlov himself, Zina. I gotta look. I didn't write the names very clearly.
There's only one Zina, right? We can just call her Zina.
Zina and Rustin Slobodin. The remaining 4 hikers were not found until May 4th. They had been buried under snow deeper into the wooded area. It seems likely that they survived longer than the others, as they were wearing items of clothing that had apparently been taken off the corpses of their fellow hikers. The first 5 hikers were found to have all died of hypothermia. The other 4 all had fatal injuries.
Whoa.
Thibaut Breguignon had a major skull fracture, and both Dubina and Zoletrev had major chest fractures. According to the doctor who examined them, the force necessary to cause such damage would have been extremely high. It was as if they had been in a car accident. It could not have been caused by human hands.
If they fell out of like a really tall tree, would that do it?
So nobody had any major outward signs of injury, however. These were all internal injuries.
So my bear theory is not holding up.
No.
Damn it.
With the exception of Lyuda Dubina, who had major external injuries. She was missing her tongue.
Oh, gnarly.
Her eyes. Part of her lips. Some facial tissue and fragments of her skull.
This just went in a cool direction. That doesn't even really explain cannibalistic tendencies. That's more of a ritualistic sounding thing.
Yeah. The initial investigation concluded that 6 died of hypothermia, and that the rest died due to a, quote, compelling force of nature.
And that's on an autopsy report somewhere.
Yes.
Compelling force of nature. I'm sure the families were like, oh, okay. Well, at least we have closure.
Tests done on the clothing of the hikers found high levels of radiation.
What?
Official investigation papers were sealed by the Russian government and not released until the 1990s. But even then, several key papers were missing.
Redacted. How close is this to Chernobyl again? We have a
So-
radioactive Yeti.
We're going to get into the theories and
Reason.
everything in a second, but I just want to hear, now you having heard the evidence,
Come on,
and this is
radioactive
your
Yeti.
first time hearing it, what are your thoughts?
Well, they were all kind of boring until we got radiation involved, and now we can take the track of like all the late 80s radiation can do whatever we want it to fiction. I don't have any good real theories. I liked the bear thing. The bear thing seems out. So, yeah, I guess I'm trying to piece it together. I suppose the most important thing would be what caused them to tear out of the tent. Like,
That is the big question.
so why did they leave? I don't know. I mean, if I'm trying to give a theory that I want to be true, I want it to be a radioactive Yeti that can
I'm with you.
punch chest really hard, and some of them got away, and it ran after that other group. And then those guys made camp and then just froze to death. And yeah, cool. And it can climb trees. Because I'm not convinced it was that guy who was climbing the tree. I think it was the thing.
Think it was a Yeti?
Yeah. Yetis can climb trees. Everybody knows this.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, that's my theory.
All right. Well, let's get into some of the theories that people have put forth. And you'll be happy to know Yeti is one of them.
Woo. Oh, and if it is a radioactive Yeti, then absolutely this is deep Russian governmental espionage. Like they created this Yeti
Oh, one thing I should
for
point
Cold
out.
War purposes.
One thing I should point out.
Decades before the Cold War.
Not long before the Cold War.
I guess not.
68.
I don't know history.
Yeah. One thing I should point out. Witnesses said, people, and when I say witnesses, I mean people in surrounding areas and also hikers on the other side of the mountain, the safer side of the mountain, say that they saw glowing orange orbs in the sky around the time of the hikers' disappearance, possibly even the night of their disappearance.
Glowing orange orbs.
Yes.
How big? Were they moving? I want to talk to these people.
I don't have all that information. All I have is glowing orange orbs.
Damn it.
Sorry.
Next time.
So one thing that you've mentioned already, and that the report itself mentions as the actual cause of death for most of them, is hypothermia.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, it can cause people, like, you feel like you're burning up, so you take off your clothes.
Mm-hmm.
That is called paradoxical undressing, and it is a symptom of hypothermia. So good job, Brian. You get a gold star.
Well, thank you. I like gold stars.
Yeah.
And that also has the same prefix as pareidolia, so if you're playing the drinking game,
Pareidolia.
we just said that word, that it's in every episode.
Oh, so hypothermia can explain most of them, but then how do you explain the ones that were basically crushed to death somehow
Yeah, and at the same time,
with no external trauma?
these people were... So it was supposed to be a 3-day hike, right? Round trip 3 days, is that right?
Slightly longer, but
Yeah, but so not that long of an expedition, and these people are all experienced. So even if it was a terrible idea to camp on the side of a mountain, I can't imagine that they just would have not realized they were going to become hypothermic in that situation. Like, yeah, let's camp here. It won't be that cold. So I still think the important thing is, why did they jump out of the tent undressed? Because I don't think they just suddenly got really cold and then cut out of their tent.
Right. Well, that's the main thing. That is definitely the main question. No matter what argument you go with, whether you go with like a supernatural explanation or a more rational explanation, why the fuck would they leave the tent? And why in that condition, like you say? That's the main thing. And unfortunately, we don't know. There's no way of knowing. We can speculate all day long, which is what people like to do.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep doing it. So another popular theory, especially popular at the time, was that it was an avalanche.
Okay. But they found the tent and it wasn't covered.
It was partially covered, but it wasn't fully covered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
and that's one of the problems, is that the area itself showed no signs of an avalanche. and that the first 5 bodies that they found, like they say it was an avalanche and it swept away the other bodies like deeper into the woods.
Yeah.
Well, if it swept away those bodies, it should have swept the other bodies as well. Maybe not all the way into the woods, but further than where they were found.
Yeah.
Also, why were only 3 of them covered by or 4 of them covered by snow, and the rest of them only had a thin layer of snow on top of them?
And they're deeper into the woods. Yeah, I'm not with this.
And the footprints were still visible for the most part.
Yeah. Boo Avalanche.
So, I like a good rational theory, and also the injuries that would have been caused by an avalanche would not have been the same kind of injuries that were witnessed.
Yeah. That's a Yeti punch.
Yeah.
If I ever seen one.
All right, now we're getting to your favorite. The Yeti. The Russian Yeti. Now, there's no...
Radioactive Russian Yeti.
Well, there's no explanation of him being radioactive, so that's a new twist that you're throwing in.
Well, what was the radiation, though? There was that one guy
we'll get to that in a little bit, but...
Oh, was he just a radiation scientist or something at the school? Is that what's going on?
Could be.
Boring.
There's a lot of legends built up around this because there was even allegedly a note that they found that said, "Now we know the snowman is real," or something along those lines. Excuse me. However, they think that might have been a forgery. And because none of the hikers mentioned seeing a Yeti in their diary, and it seems like if you had seen a Yeti, you would probably mention it when you're writing your log of like what you did that day. But also there's a theory that they actually, the government is suppressing those diary entries. And not only did they see it, but they photographed it because I think it was Dyatlov himself had a camera that he was found with. Like it was found on his body. Yeah. That was not listed in the official equipment catalog that they had. So there was this mysterious camera. But the Russian government said, "Oh, we tried to develop it, but it was too water damaged." Yep.
Because when I want trustworthiness, I go to the Russian government.
The theory is that the Yeti pictures were on that camera. Because we do have other pictures, which, by the way, you can see on spookyassshit.com. And I will post some of the pictures of the bodies, but it's pretty morbid. I'm going to tell you guys straight up. Just like last week when we talked about Jack the Ripper. This week...
Part 2 in our series of dead body pictures.
Actual dead bodies, and yeah. So, I mean, most of them aren't really that... Like, they're disturbing because they're frozen people. Yeah. But most of them don't look like that gross because they were just frozen. They weren't,
Except the one missing the face and everything. Yeah. But you've seen Silence of the Lambs. It'll be fine.
All right. So yeah, nobody mentioned seeing a Yeti. There were no photographs of the Yeti found. And the note about the Yeti they think is probably a hoax.
Hey, Yuri, did you write about the Yeti in your journal? I didn't even think to. So much was going on that day.
That's right. That happened. I forgot. I wrote about the flowers we saw.
Those are rare flowers. If you're going to write about one of those too.
But yeah, so then also the theory is the Yeti was enraged and he ripped out the girl's tongue and her eyes and all that stuff. But really, if you die in the woods, it's very likely that a scavenger animal will come along and eat the soft tissue of your body. So if she was fully dressed, which she was, the soft tissue then is what's around her face. That's what's exposed.
Chipmunks go for eyes, though?
Well, maybe not chipmunks, but there might be like...
Well, what kind of wildlife is up that high?
I don't know what's on the mountains, but... It seems unlikely to me that a Yeti would go in and rip out her tongue.
Seems oddly specific.
Like he would just crush her face, I would guess.
I was tired of her talking.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it seems more likely that, any kind of animal could do
I'm
that.
with that, yeah.
But also, she was found face down in a stream. And from what I've read, this is not uncommon. Like, this kind of decomposition is not uncommon for a waterlogged corpse. Oh,
okay. So we have like a lot of explanation for that.
Yeah. It sounds really mysterious until you think.
Well, it's like the wildlife ate her tongue, and the Yeti really liked tongues.
Yeah.
And he was so furious that her
delicacy.
tongue was already gone that he threw her in the water because he was pissed.
Well, and the other question, if it was a Yeti attack, then why did he just pick her to, like, brutalize in such a way? Because the other ones weren't, disfigured in any sort of way.
He has kind of a temper, but then it levels off.
All right. So another theory is that this was all... They were basically driven insane by infrasound.
I don't know what that is.
Well,
Sounds cool.
Would be sound underneath that which you can detect. So it's sound that, in theory, still has an effect on you.
But it's not actually audible to human ears.
Correct.
All right. So like invisible light, but for
So like
sound.
technically like a dog whistle for humans would be infrasound because we can't hear it.
Okay.
But a dog can hear it.
Yeah.
They have rat traps that use infrasound, which I don't think work, by the way. Tried them last year. So the theory here is that wind passing through the mountains created a type of vortex, and that in that vortex, infrasound was created that was emitted, and this had an effect on the humans, and in this case, apparently, drove them insane and drove them out of the tent.
That's shaky.
Yeah. Then, of course, there's the UFO theory.
Get those orbs in the mix.
Yeah, because you got the glowing orbs. So maybe there was some sort of alien contact on the top of the mountain. Some people say this might explain the radiation. And broken branches on trees.
Yeah, and the UFO landed on top of 3 people, apparently.
Yeah. I guess so.
That's explaining the blunt trauma.
Or maybe they had some sort of force ray. That force pushed them.
A Yeti punch ray.
Hey, I didn't say these are all good theories. I just said these are theories.
No, they're great.
Explanations.
I just don't think they're true.
And the final theory that I have here is that it was some sort of military testing gone wrong.
Okay.
Because the Russian government actually admitted that they were, in fact, testing parachute mines around the time of the incident.
Oh, wow. Parachute mines? I don't know what that...
Yeah.
So, like, if
These are
someone's
mines that they
parachuting-
send out in a parachute.
Oh, okay, I was wrong.
And they explode in the air. But they create a force that goes out through, the ground, down to the ground.
Just force, though, or shrapnel, too? Like, I've never heard of a mine that just sends a shockwave.
I didn't see any... Well, according to some reports, there was metal found. And some people say there wasn't. So, again, they're saying that this is... maybe the
you
government
guys.
covering something up.
Get your story straight.
Yeah. But these parachute mines have been known to cause injuries similar to those found
Oh, really?
on the folks who were
Okay.
found to have a force of nature injury.
Okay.
And that's really all we had for theories. So I guess originally when I first heard about it, I thought Avalanche. But then, like I said, when you think about some of the evidence, it doesn't seem as likely. So I guess the theory that I would go with is the military testing.
It seems the most plausible.
Right.
Still doesn't really explain why they cut their way out of the tent, though. Maybe they heard one.
Right.
And they were like, we're being shelled. We have to go.
Maybe they saw something falling from the sky and they thought, we need to get out right now.
We need to get into the woods because that's a better cover. I don't know.
And then they built a fire in the woods, too.
It just, it doesn't explain everything.
Yeah. That's why it's interesting. That's why I picked it out. Another theory that they had brought up was that they thought it might be the Mansi tribe that had killed these people.
There's a Mansi tribe that lives like on this mountain?
Like not directly in that area, but around there.
No, okay.
Yeah,
The ones
and
that
they live
named
on
it.
the mountain.
Yeah.
And I think they're nomadic, I think. If I remember correctly. But yeah, that was one theory, was that the villagers or the tribesmen became upset with this group for whatever reason and decided to
And they
kill
dropped
them.
large rocks on some people.
Well, that's the problem, right? So they were cleared pretty quickly because of that. Like hypothermia.
Yeah.
They obviously didn't like cause, how are they gonna freeze people to death?
We hid their sweaters.
Yeah. And then again, the injuries, there was no external injuries except for the one woman, and those were probably caused by the natural
Yeah. So
progression of
there's a bunch of theories I
decomposition.
don't like. There isn't really one cohesive one that I do like.
Yeah, like I said, I think the government military testing is probably the strongest one, but even those, it just sounds like too conspiracy nut like, but maybe
Do you want to
sometimes
put
they're
that
right.
on our conspiracy YouTube channel that we're making?
Yeah, who's the Illuminati
It was somehow the Illuminati.
and the Freemasons.
Yeah, well, obviously.
Yeah.
All right, well,
So-
I think it's pretty obvious that there were some flying saucers,
Which made the Yetis radioactive.
well, which made the glowing orbs, and so the Yeti got confused and cut the tent open, and everybody ran away.
Uh-huh.
And then the Yeti was momentarily distracted by the glowing orbs, and so they figured they had time to make a fire, and then he went and ate someone's tongue.
It's a delicacy on the don't go there mountain.
Yeah. He was so mad that they openly flouted the name of the mountain that he just killed them all. Yeti punch!
Yeah, so the biggest question really is, why did they leave the tent?
I mean, the first question is, why did they camp on the side of the mountain? Because damn it, guys.
Yeah.
You had one job. Stay alive.
Yeah.
So, Dyatlov. Am I saying that right? Probably not. Dyatlov?
Well, I don't know if I'm saying it right. I say Dyatlov.
Dyatlov. All right. Dyatlov, you messed up. And
Yeah.
it led to a mystery we still haven't been able to solve, so that's like a double whammy right there.
Yeah.
You guys died, and now we don't know what happened. So, I mean, we're really the ones suffering here. Well, so these are some of the pictures. We never really discussed what... Was it just boring stuff in the journals? There was nothing really illuminative that
No.
would have explained anything. It's just kind of breakfast sucked today.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. I guess that's all
We
we
made
have
it.
to say about Dyatlov Pass. Again, I apologize for any of the names I mispronounced, which is probably all of them. But I tried, and it wasn't done with malice. That's the
believe
main
you.
thing.
Yeah.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at SpookyAssShit and Twitter at SpookyAssShit. You can visit the website, spookyasshit.com, or if you're the prudish iTunes type, spookyas.com. Both take you the same place. There's pictures not only of this episode, from this episode, but from every episode where pictures are appropriate. There's one like the Salem Witch Trial where I don't think I have any pictures because photography
picture of-
wasn't a big thing back then.
Winona Ryder pictures.
Yeah. And I will warn you again, some of these pictures are a little gruesome, but
They're not that bad, guys. I just saw them.
you're listening to a show called Spooky Ass Shit, so I assume you're into that kind of thing anyway.
You're into ass shit if you're here.
And don't forget to check us out on Facebook. It's facebook.com/spookyas. And you can reach out to us there.
Do it.
If you have any questions or comments or show ideas, you can send them there, or you can send them via email, of course, to spookyasshit@gmail.com.
Check out the billboard on I-90 West.
All right. Until next time, don't be afraid.